Have you ever stumbled upon something so unsettling, so completely wrong, that it chills you to the bone even thinking about it? Well, let me tell you about the abandoned Blackwood TV studio just outside of Harmony Creek, Iowa. I'm Alex, and I'm kind of obsessed with urban exploration, finding beauty and stories in forgotten places. Blackwood Studio was notorious in its day. Back in the 70s, they produced a bunch of local kids' shows. But it shut down mysteriously, decades ago, and locals whispered stories about it being cursed. The place was massive, all echoing sound stages and dusty control rooms, but the weirdest thing was the air. It felt heavy, like static cling, and the silence was too perfect, like the building was holding its breath. It was late afternoon when I squeezed through a broken window and started exploring. The main sound stage was huge, filled with decaying sets and props. As I walked deeper, I started hearing this faint humming, almost like old electronics warming up. I dismissed it as the wind, but it grew louder as I ventured further into the control rooms. The air got colder, and the humming became a distinct, low-static crackle. I started feeling uneasy, the kind of prickling on your skin that tells you you're being watched, even though I was completely alone. Shadows seemed to flicker in the corners of my vision, and the silence between the static pulses was thick and oppressive. Then, in one of the smaller editing suites, I saw it. An old monitor, still attached to a dusty VCR, flickered to life. Not with regular static, but with a picture. It was blurry, black and white, and distorted, but I could make out figures. They were puppets, brightly colored and unsettlingly cheerful, in a set that looked like a kindergarten classroom. The humming static intensified as the video played and the puppets started to move, their movements jerky and unnatural. Their painted smiles looked wrong. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. As I watched, transfixed and horrified, the puppets started speaking. Not in the cheerful voices you'd expect from a kid's show, but in raspy, distorted whispers. They were talking about me, about someone being in the studio, about watching. The static crackled louder, and the screen flickered violently, the puppets' faces growing closer, their smiles widening into grotesque grins. Suddenly the screen went black, the static cut off, and the room plunged into absolute silence, heavier and colder than before. I scrambled back, heart hammering, and didn't stop running until I was out of the studio and back in my car. Later, researching Blackwood, I found nothing about this show, no record of any puppets like that. It was like that episode, that horrifying broadcast, never existed. Has anyone else ever heard of a children's show from Blackwood Studios, maybe from the late 70s, with puppets that just weren't right? Tell me I'm not crazy, please, because I can't shake the feeling that those puppets are still watching, waiting for the static to return.